the hell? He's back. He just got done streaming like 2 minutes ago. I recognize crap content when I see it. What is up, everybody? This is Jay, aka MultimediaJay. One of the interesting things about streaming on a night shift schedule is when that midnight hour rolls around, you technically can do 2 different streams for 2 different days, minutes apart from each other. So yeah, I had a discussion earlier about, it was supposed to be about where I'm at with, I got the second Moderna shot, so I'm heading towards the ranks of the fully vaccinated here in America. So celebrating that, and this vacation that was originally supposed to be, this vacation that I've taken this week that was originally supposed to be a precautionary thing in case I got clobbered by side effects, is actually turning into a reason to celebrate, getting that second dose. So it's just, but there's a bunch of things that are going on this week, and I'm keeping a very close eye on my connection status, because when I thought about how I had streamed in the last stream, which I'm sure nobody's going to watch this one now because, oh, he's done for the day. No, when I thought about how, we'll let this one go into the record books or be viewed after the fact. But when I got done with the last stream, I was like, the stream that I've now deleted, I knew it was garbage. It even had technical issues because of internet stability issues. But when I was finishing up the last stream, I was like, holy crap, I sound like Chris Hayes on MSNBC. Now, I jokingly refer to Chris Hayes as the angry news nerd because he has the big glasses and he basically got the whole nerd thing going on there. But he kind of reminds me of the angry video game nerd in cable news. So I jokingly refer to him as the angry news nerd, especially those monologues from his MSNBC show. Now, I know MSNBC is slants leftward, and they usually aren't afraid to be antagonistic while doing so. So what Chris Hayes does on his show is nothing that I've never seen before on MSNBC. So it's just a matter of what kind of formats do you want? What kind of formats do you want on your radio and TV stations? That's just the way it is. It's all a giant genre to what it is. But I'm over here, like, the way I'm talking sounds kind of like one of his angry monologues that he often does. And why isn't my blue program opening up? Oh man, gremlins galore. It says it's running, but it clearly TSR'd. So let's can the whole process and reopen it. This program just updated itself to, there we go. Woohoo! So I spent so much time ranting about pandemic stuff that I didn't really get around to talking about literally anything else I wanted to talk about. Just kind of give an update on where I am and stuff. And let's see how quickly this stream gets demonetized too. Got a new approach to streams as well for streaming on YouTube, where I'm going to just leave the stream demonetized until it finishes extended processing and then cut off, the dead part of the stream when I'm verifying the connection. Because one of the things about YouTube is that if you want to maybe have something get rechecked, one of the ways to do that is to edit the video. You'll see that where the checks all start back up and stuff like that. So I had a situation where YouTube has a new 2-strike system with regards to rating your content. So if you get 2 videos wrong, the system considers you untrustworthy for 90 days. So you have to do all the automated checks and stuff. I'm just thinking, if YouTube's going to be that strict, then why not just give people a way to opt out of self-certification and just let the robots do everything? Because, I mean, seriously, I don't want a system telling me you're not trustworthy because 2 streams had problems. And they did. All of the demonetization problems I have on my channel are all related to streams. And the technology for demonetization with streams is similar to what uploads were a couple of years ago. I don't have problems with demonetization on uploads. I have non-stop problems with demonetization on streams. Even if the stream topic and discussion is totally milquetoast, not even edgy. So I would not be surprised if this stream got demonetized sometime while live. And there's people collecting data and sending screenshots to the YouTube folks on Twitter, talking about how they lose the ability to get any concurrence whatsoever when their streams are demonetized. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. Also going to test out rebooting a lot of minor network devices like hubs and stuff. I half rebooted my network earlier. Because I recently had a provisioning speed upgrade from the ISP. They're running a promo where I pay less for a faster speed than just call in 6 months if I don't want to keep it. I don't have the equipment to handle this faster speed. Internally, anyways, I could run a spaghetti cable to the modem and then hook it straight into the computer and get max speed that way. But I'm not that desperate for it. But I was running into some flakiness. With the internet connection. So I'm keeping an eye on the connection status. There was rubber band lag in ESO. And there are also situations where I got no data warnings in live control room. And it said, if we don't receive data soon, we're going to restart your stream. I had that happen a couple of times. I was like, give me a break. So I've just added again, but now we're back to the glitch that was there before where it says no data, but the light stays green. It doesn't say, if you don't start streaming again, we're going to end your stream. So I guess I've improved the lag situation somewhat, but I do have some more equipment on the way to upgrade the power line component of the network, which I spent some stimulus money on. I also spent some stimulus dollars on this. Probably the final soup can camcorder that I'm ever going to get. This is a Sony Handycam HD, records in, let's see, it's basically, whoa, it makes the same noises as the old ones now that I've turned everything on. It uploads, it records in 60 FPS. It also has external inputs and all kinds of other stuff, and it records in AVC HD, the format that I've traditionally done very well with YouTube videos, whereas with, and it also has a lens thingy that automatically closes like the camera from 2 cameras ago. But this camera actually is pretty decent. I'm just going to kick the tires on it, see what it can do. It also records in 5.1, so I'm wondering if I can record in 5.1 and down mix to stereo and get clear dialogue as well as clear stereo of what's going on in the room and not even have to mess with external microphones. Leave the external microphones to basic stuff. Yeah, see that? The lens cover opens and closes automatically. So this actually got discontinued. This camera actually got discontinued from over on B&H. It got listed as discontinued over on B&H's site. So this could be my final soup can camcorder because, yeah, unfortunately, I had to deal with ridiculously high prices, but I bit the bullet because it just wasn't working out with the Canon. And MP4s creating phantom syllables in Corel Video Studio. Might look at editing software next as my next move to try and fix the issues with MP4s and the problems they cause. So what has video making become when you're constantly having to chase gremlins just to make a video? Well, it's become something that has higher barriers to entry than streaming. As I saw earlier tonight, one of my old college buddies, goose egg experience in online media. He's done radio before because we used to be buddies at the radio station. He did a sports show and I did a metal show when I got into the whole radio thing over in college. But he was streaming Pokemon Go on his phone. Wasn't anything exciting at all. He couldn't even place the darn microphone correctly. So he's not using any of the special features to stream with. It's just literally dude playing Pokemon Go on his phone, and it's a vertical video. So first experience, we all got to start somewhere. I'm not going to pick apart people with no experience because you don't really get anywhere with this online media stuff until you're able to critique yourself and try to improve. So everything you do is going to start out rubbish. But you got to work at it and get better at it. And I don't mean growing your stream like some of the stream gurus out there might say. Just because you get more people to watch something doesn't mean it's better. I'm talking things like getting better with the equipment you have. Maybe make some upgrades, but don't go too wild. But do things because you're curious. And that curiosity leads into skills because you gain experience and learn what all the little things in OBS do, what all the little settings on the microphone do, and stuff like that. And that's something I want to get back to with these streams, is I want these streams to basically be a way of people seeing me experimenting with stuff, similar to Wacky World of MultimediaJay, the video equivalent of that. And darn it, I've been on vacation all week. Haven't had time to really shoot a video with this thing yet. So it's the camera I want. It could be my last soup can camcorder though, because these things I think are getting crowded out, except for Panasonic. I think these things are getting crowded out by DSLRs. You know, the way it was for the longest time is that digital cameras and camcorders at the consumer level and the prosumer level too did something a little better than the other. Digital cameras are better at stills and camcorders are a little bit better at video. If a DSLR has a few features, like for example, variable speed zooming, a DSLR with your choice of lenses can actually replace a consumer camcorder. So it's a changing world. You got to stay on top of things in terms of what's where with what. And so, yeah, this week I've been on vacation halfway through this stuff because I streamed before with it. This week I've been on vacation and I could have been working on videos, but I didn't want to turn this into feeling like I'm working. So I actually decided to say heck with all of it, play a bunch of ESO, level some characters, and get back into movies. I'd been second guessing whether I wanted to still be involved with DVD Blu-ray. I was curious if the Blu-ray experience on Monolith was any better now, because I had problems watching a Star Wars movie once with jerkiness and stuff. So I'm comparing PS3, sadly, with a 1080p Blu-ray experience on PC to see if Blu-ray on PC has gotten any better. And of course, there are a couple of bargain bin movies on sale. For example, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is now a discount movie at Walmart. So pick this one up on Blu-ray. I already had the original Jurassic World, and there we go. And there's a third movie that's in development right now. There's some other bargain bin collection, well, compilations and other bargain bin collections on sale too. So here's the Rambo Collection. So Blu-ray, Walmart Blu-ray, etc. It's movies, if nothing else. And I also have some DVDs as well. Mostly those bargain compilation DVDs where I haven't seen one of the movies on there. So in the case of this Austin Powers one, Spies Like Us is the one I've never seen. I knew about Austin Powers, saw the trilogy, never got around to watching Spies Like Us. I still have this one from over a decade ago, back when the 9-to-5ers were making all kinds of references to the good, the bad, and the ugly in terms of how warehouse folks were doing stuff. There's also Hang 'em High, another Clint Eastwood movie on here that I haven't seen. So I saw the good, the bad, and the ugly, all 3 hours of it, went to work on like 4 hours sleep. I was up till 2 in the morning back when I was day shift because I wanted to see the good, the bad, and the ugly all in one shot. There's also this film favorites thing. I'm sure that the Zaranizeracs of the world and other Blu-ray folks don't like some of these things, but hey, you know, if I just want to see the movies and I'm not too wild about special features and stuff, why not pick up this bargain bin stuff? I think physical media does have a bit of a future here, but this is a bunch of Jim Carrey movies. I'm familiar with The Mask. I'm familiar with Dumb and Dumber. I'm not familiar with Yes Man and The Majestic. And then, of course, there's this one. There was a YouTube video that did a World of Warcraft parody of Annie Get Your Gun. So I saw this Turner Classic thingy in there, and I saw Annie Get Your Gun, but I've never seen any of the other movies in this collection. So I basically got all these discs here, just sitting here as a reminder, make sure I watch the rest of the movies sometime and whatnot. Also comparing the upscaling technology for the DVDs versus what PS3 can do. It makes for an interesting technical experiment that a console that almost got its online shut off earlier could still be a pretty decent Blu-ray player, at least at the 1080p level. And that's what I find fascinating about the current state of movies, is that you have bargain bin Blu-ray out there, not DVD. Well, DVD is basically dollar store video disc at this point. But you have bargain bin Blu-ray out there, like $5 movies, $7 movies. I can get all the Jaws movies, for example, for under $20 now. I remember when people were complaining that Blu-rays were expensive because you were buying $25 movies. And you know what? I have a couple of $25 movies from 2010, 2011, etc. I was like, oh man, what a mess. It just, do I really want the extra quality when I could just watch the movie on DVD? And of course, nowadays you have DVD as basically dollar store video disc. Go to some yard sale or secondhand store, get plenty of DVDs, then put them in a good upscaler. The big issue, though, is that Blu-ray is now giving way to 4K Blu-ray. So when looking up some prices for 4K Blu-rays, why don't we actually do that? Let me open up Microsoft Edge here. What is the price difference on Amazon? Because as was the case years ago when I did a discussion, I may have to bring back my old rant discussions on Blu-ray from 2010 or so, or do some kind of react segment where I look at one of my old videos from 2010, 2011, when I was first getting into Blu-ray, complaining about $25 movies, and compare it to just how it all panned out. Like, I'm way overdue on that at this point. But one of the things I remember saying is that Target seemed to be okay with Blu-ray, as you know, you can get movies at a decent price. But by and large, brick and mortar dinosaurs, as I called them back then, were losing to the internet, because you could go on Amazon and get some pretty decent prices on Blu-rays and whatnot versus what the brick and mortars were doing. But nowadays you got Walmart, they got the big bin they dump everything into, and now you see a lot of blue in there. It's not DVDs anymore. There's a DVD one that's separate these days. But the interesting thing is, if you still have a 1080p setup, or 1080p is nice and crisp for you, you don't need stuff in 4K. There's a lot of let's look at this one. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Isn't there like 3 versions of that? Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I'm looking for, because I think I saw like a $30 movie that was 4K. All right, ooh. That's to stream it. Yeah, so this was a $10 Blu-ray at Walmart, because the Jurassic World movies are old enough now that they're turning into bargain bin movies. All right, so let's see here. Trying not to crash the stream by hitting return at the wrong time. All right. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Let's look at some formats here. Streaming rentals. You can stream it up to 4K. $15 to get it, to stream it in 4K. I imagine that there's going to be issues with, can I get a 4K Blu-ray version of this? The 1080 Blu-ray is $10. Woo! Oh, there we go. The Warcraft movie in 4K is down to $12. I remember seeing a Blu-ray that costs like 20, 30. That's the 5-movie Jurassic World collection, which includes the original Jurassic Park movies as well, for $30. There are all there are already 4K. There are already 4K movie classics Blu-rays out there. Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, The World's End trilogy on Blu-ray. One of those, you know, like multiple movie value packs and stuff. Not unlike this Jim Carrey one and whatnot that was on DVD. $31.99. I remember complaining about $30 movies, 1080p, one movie, and you've got value packs, for $30 now, 4K. So this is the interesting thing too. There's the Blu-ray version of it is $15 for 3 movies. The DVD version is $14. So why, I don't even know why you'd mess with the DVD version at those prices. Yeah, dollar store video disc and stuff. The fun thing about DVD though is that with DVD, go to a secondhand store and see if there's a place selling a bunch of these for $1 each. Peruse the shelves, stop by every so often to see if there's anything you want, and upscale them and cross your fingers. Yeah, this 3-pack of movies has 4K, a 4K Blu-ray for $30, a 1080 Blu-ray for $15, and then $14 for the DVD. Why would you even bother with DVD? I mean, if you don't have Blu-ray at this point, just buy a darn console. Even the PS3. Oh, man. Get some 1080p going on that darn screen. All right, let me just look for 4K Blu-ray in general. It's supposed to be, you know, an update vlog about... Well, you know, this is the Matrix trilogy. Here we go. 4K Blu-ray plus regular Blu-ray plus a digital copy. $50 for the Matrix trilogy on 4K. Usually ships within 1 to 2 months. Woohoo! Is this some kind of third party and not shipped by Amazon? The Blu-ray variant of this, with the 3 Matrix movies, 13-ish, $12.64, and DVD for some reason is $20. Oh, there's a 4th movie in there. What's the 4th movie? The Animatrix. Oh, okay. So we're talking about $5 movies here. Well, yeah. So I've been getting back into movies and stuff, something I've been really, really absent from. I still have this Rambo collection. This is what Rambo, what were this one? This was First Blood, Rambo, First Blood Part 2, Rambo 3, regular Rambo, as in the one that folks that play at Bogart complained about back in the day, and Rambo Last Blood. I was gonna have a Rambo marathon if the side effects from the vaccine were so wild that I could hardly do anything else, not even play ESO. So, it's just, man, we've gotten to the point where Blu-ray is a budget format because it's still 1080p. Matrix triple feature doesn't have the Animatrix, $13. So not even $5 movies there. Of course, there could be issue. Oh, there's the form film. What am I saying, dude? Okay, so the DVD of Matrix, Matrix Reloaded, Matrix Revolutions, and the Animatrix. I'm trying to read the fine print on a screenshot here. $20 on DVD. $15 on regular Blu-ray. Yeah, Matrix, Matrix Reloaded, Matrix Revolutions, Animatrix. Blu-ray, $15, 4 movies. Probably movies that a lot of people have already seen, but Blu-ray, a budget format. Holy crap, what kind of a world have we wandered into? It's just a pain in the neck to get it set up on a PC because drives on Blu-ray are... there's still some licensing costs involved. But that's what I've been doing that's what I'm doing for this vacation. I had no idea how bad the symptoms were going to get. I thought I'd be clobbered for 2 days because after getting the first dose of the Moderna vaccine, I was clobbered for 1 day. That wasn't really the case. So here's the thing with the COVID vaccines, right? And I spent so much time barreling away talking about this last time that I've had some time to think about what I said and try and make it a little bit better. Are we demonetized yet? No, we're not. Woohoo! We are so getting demonetized. But I'm a lot more funny sounding now as opposed to being grumpy like the MSNBC guy last go round. Here's the thing with the COVID vaccines. I see so much crying on the internet because there's a lot of anti-vaxxers in my neck of the woods, which is one of the big reasons I wanted to get vaccinated. Thine preaching hath backfired, anti-vaxxers. God, my Facebook experience right now is so close to being just not worth it whatsoever. Because none of the local media outlets in this neck of the woods can say anything about the pandemic, or Joe Biden for that matter, without the comments getting flooded with crap. Look, I haven't forgotten what I felt like a year ago. It was May. I was getting ready to go back to work. The lockdowns and whatnot were a thing, and I was upset because the haves and the have-nots were defined by whether or not they could work from home. And then as I ranted about a couple of months ago, well, does that count? As I ranted about earlier in the year, that's better. The state of Connecticut, Governor Ned Lamont and the Lamont administration simplified the vaccine rollout plan to be exclusively based on age, or on your age. No more essential worker slot. So healthcare workers made all the sense in the world that they got the vaccine first. The last special group was educators, teachers, to reopen the schools for 1 to 2 months of classes. Maybe 3 in some aggressive towns. But when essential workers lost their place in line, I was furious. It's like, look, the risk doesn't go away just because you're working in a restaurant or you're working at Walmart instead of working in a healthcare clinic. You're still at risk, and you may be more at risk because you may have a hands-off corporate policy that says you need a mask to get in the door, but people take their masks off in the store and nobody confronts them on it. Cumberland Farms in particular has been really nasty with that. And I've stopped doing a lot of stuff at Cumberland Farms. They've lost business, and I'm sure other people think like I do. They're like, the Cumberland Farms is not doing their due diligence. They think the plexiglass thing is all they need. They're not holding people accountable for not wearing masks inside their store, and corporate policy shushes the workers. They can't find anybody to work for them, and they've always been hiring. I wonder why. Holy crap. I wonder why nobody wants to work for them. When corporate says, you put a big sign on the door that says you need to wear a mask, but don't actually do anything if people don't wear it. So, look, I haven't forgotten what last year felt like. I know it was 2020. We'd love to forget 2020 as best we can, but there's some lessons to be learned from all the crap that happened last year. And one of them was the feeling of helplessness that all our science and our technology since the flu pandemic after World War I, a century of medical technology, and we were in a position where we couldn't do anything because we had no vaccine. We had to social distance, wear masks, shut down the economy, take damage, hopefully less damage from shutting down the economy during the pandemic than we would have if we lost customers because the virus spread further. We had to do all that stuff, and it's just like with a century more progress. It's like, oh, man, this is, what a bummer, man. Absolute bummer. That we've got all this technology. We're researching cancer treatments. We're researching HIV treatments. Diseases that were scary 20, 30 years ago are now stuff we have vaccines for. You know, all this stuff we do in modern medicine, and yet we couldn't do anything about COVID. Just wear a mask and stay away from people and hope you don't get it. Wash your hands a lot. It was a real punch in the face to be sent back to that square one, essentially. Total slap in the face, man. As a guy who surrounds himself with technology and loves technology, it hurt to see us reduced to be very careful because we don't have anything else we can do about this. And so I haven't forgotten what that felt like. Well, there is a vaccine now. You know what? I'm taking it. Or have taken it. The end. And it just appalls me that there are people who are complaining about the shutdowns. They're complaining about the masks. They're complaining about everything. Essentially complaining that we didn't have a vaccine, that now for some synthetic first world problems reason don't want to take it. And there's enough of that, even in a liberal state like Connecticut, that if you, depending on where you live, you can actually choose what vaccine you want. That's not the official guidance, by the way. The official guidance is take the first one you can get because supplies are going to be limited. But because of the drop off in demand, depending on where you live, there are places where you can actually pick which one you want and very easily get an appointment without losing time. I was looking this up on Walmart's website because I found out the hard way you need a Walmart account. So if you ever bought anything on Walmart.com, create an account, blah, 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 and you can actually research COVID vaccines through Walmart and their pharmacy network. So Walmart pharmacies, if you have a Walmart account, you can actually look and see which stores have which vaccines. So I was looking at some towns in Massachusetts, Mendon being one of them, where you can decide to get Pfizer, Moderna, or Johnson & Johnson just by going to one Walmart store or the other. That's what we've gotten to. It's been making the news lately that the demand for the vaccines is dropping off. People aren't keeping appointments, or they're not wanting to get them or whatever. This country has a problem with vaccine hesitancy and sometimes vaccine aggression from the anti-vax crowd. I don't like giving them any legitimacy whatsoever. Pseudoscience is not my thing. And YouTube has policies about that, but even if YouTube didn't have the policies, I'd be on the side of science here. But what this means is the silver lining of this cloud is help yourself. Here's every single way that I know of to get a COVID vaccine. Some people, maybe you have run into some roadblocks through what you thought was the most obvious way, like check your local pharmacy or something like that. But here we go. So you have the pharmacies, you have CVS, Walgreens around here. Rite Aid is now a West Coast company, from what I understand, after Walgreens bought out their Northeast business. Or their East Coast business, excuse me. So, pharmacies, of course, will have them. That's the obvious thing. But then Walmart's the big surprise. You know, what I find interesting about Walmart and COVID vaccines is that Walmart is already a store where I'm going to go buy a few things. And the next thing you know, you're spending like half of your paycheck or whatever on a shopping cart full of the most random stuff you would buy from a store. That's the Walmart experience here in America. Yeah, I could go to the store for like really dull, mundane stuff and impulse buy my way into a shopping cart full of the most random stuff you would ever expect to come from a single shopping trip. And now we can add COVID vaccines to the shopping list. It's wild, you know? They do have pharmacies in some of the super centers and the stores and whatnot. So check if you have a Walmart.com account for buying online. Use your account to check, see what stores have what vaccines. Depending on where you live, you might be in a place where you actually can choose which one you want. It's huge for me because in the back and forths I've had with people regarding, lag. In the back and forth discussions I've been reading where people are bickering back and forth about the vaccine and whatnot, there are some people out there that are just set in their ways and they're pretty old fashioned and they have brand loyalty that pretty much shouldn't be there at this point. They don't understand the vaccines. All they understand is, well, I know what Pfizer is, but what the heck is Moderna? I want to get the Pfizer one. I at least know who that company is. They make Viagra. There's something stupid like that. It's about as bad as the people that vote for a politician because he has the nicest looking tie. Or she nowadays. There are ties for women, right? There are suits, you know, pantsuits and stuff. I've seen Hillary wear a bunch of them. But, yeah, so it's a figure of speech. People that vote for a politician because they like how they dress. Now, that happens in America. Apparently, it's the thing with the vaccines, too. Oh, I only know what Pfizer is. Johnson & Johnson. Don't they make baby powder or something? Yeah, well, do some digging. The J&J vaccine is a subsidiary Janssen that actually makes this type of stuff. It's a bit of a branding issue, considering what we normally associate Johnson & Johnson with, whether it's baby powder or, in my case, No More Tears baby shampoo. So you're like, a baby shampoo COVID vaccine? That's kind of, well... There's a couple of things I like about Moderna, though. That's the reason why I preferred them, even though I would have taken something else if I'd gotten that first. Here's the thing with Moderna. They have the ticker, first of all, New England business based out of Massachusetts. Number two, they bought the stock ticker, or they acquired for themselves the stock ticker mRNA, flying a flag that they're so heavily about the mRNA technology. Now, here's the thing. Okay, but Pfizer has one too. Pfizer has a lot of other stuff. If they mess up on mRNA, they still have Viagra, they still have all their other drugs, they still have all this other stuff. I think if Moderna messes up on an mRNA vaccine, it causes serious damage or takes out the whole company. So who has the compelling reason to really, really get this right? So that's the thing. And Moderna, I already know from monitoring the website, the Global Vaccine Alliance, which tracks the various vaccines worldwide being developed by all the companies in all the countries that are trying to make them, and see who's in phase 1, who's in phase 2, who's in phase 3, who's in phase 4. They're also at the bottom of those rankings, the abandoned ones, the vaccines that were ditched. Like, oh, this isn't going to do anything. Never mind. 2 of them are from Merck, interestingly enough. One was based on an Ebola vaccine, and the technology didn't produce all that wild of an immune response when it was being tested. And then there was another one that was based on a viral vector with an inactivated measles vaccine. Didn't really provoke much of an immune response versus even just getting COVID the regular way. So the point of vaccines is to train up your immune system via a limited version of what you could get, so that when you get the real thing, you're not as clobbered by it, or you don't have any issues at all. So it's kind of like special training for your immune system. Been that way since all the way back at the very beginning. If you learn about the history of vaccination, when someone came up with a preventative treatment for smallpox by, exposing people to much less dangerous cowpox instead. It's kind of cool how we developed this technology and what it's done for us, especially over the past 50 years or so. Because as the discussions and arguments have gone on about vaccines and stuff on my local social media, I've actually looked around at a family tree for my family, and I remember, it jogged my memory. I got involved in a lot of family tree stuff a couple of years ago with Ancestry and some of those other companies that do that. One of the things that I remember seeing is I have relatives apparently who didn't make it out of childhood. And I'm like, they're on the 1920 census, but they're not on the 1930 census. Like, my grandfather had an older brother who died as a kid. And then I look around, I find out childhood vaccinations weren't really formalized all that much until the 40s. Yeah, my grandparents grew up in the 20s and 30s. They grew up in the era where parents would get worried about polio in the summer. We had a polio president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR, wound up in a wheelchair because of the darn disease. The progress we've made with modern medicine is wonderful in and of itself. But the progress we've made with just this specific technology with mRNA and whatnot is really marvelous. And so when you run into people who just want to act like none of this is available, you got to wonder, is COVID going to become an anti-vaxxer plague later this year? Well, if that unfortunately is what's going to happen, then I want to be on the right side of science. You know, people may think I'm elitist or liberal intelligentsia, as I've heard some conservative commentators say. People can think I'm some kind of snooty, nose in the air kind of guy just because I will not associate with folks who don't want to work with the technology. But there's very good reason for that. I haven't forgotten what it felt like last year to be in a situation where we had this virus going around, could do all kinds of bad things to you. It was a total gamble as to whether or not you get mild symptoms, moderate symptoms, severe symptoms, hospitalization, death. It was a real gamble. And we couldn't do anything about it except wear masks and social distance. Don't we wish we could have had a vaccine earlier? My family certainly does. You know, I say a lot about content creation. Don't think you know a content creator just because of what they show on camera, because you never know what they're keeping off screen. And in my case, I can tell you there's some things I haven't been talking about. One of them is that my extended family had a death in the family due to COVID-19. An in-law, technically, from my perspective, but still extended family. We've lost someone because of this. Am I demonetized yet? Surprisingly, no. Come on, YouTube robots. Or maybe I should actually try and give YouTube some more credit for a change. They've been annoying me enough as it is. But yeah. My family had a death in the family because of COVID. And one of the worst things about losing loved ones, as someone who lost my mother at a very young age, if you think about it, you find your mind getting trapped in this giant game of what if. What if things had gone better? What if this technology existed back then? What if they made this choice instead of that choice? Would they still be with us? How much longer would they have lived? Been a couple of those in my family. My grandmother, practically a patron saint of my family, very, very altruistic. She cared about others in all capital letters with a bazillion exclamation points. 70-something years old towards the end of her life. 70-something years old, super thick glasses because of how old she was and how bad her eyes had gotten. And what was she doing? Sitting home retired? No, she was teaching little kids how to read. She was working with a daycare center or some kind of school or something, as some kind of tutor or whatever. 70-something-year-old lady with very thick glasses teaching little kids how to read. Her life was absolutely a real role model for a lot of us, if not all of us. People still say nice things about her to this day. Towards the end of her life, she had something that caused pain. The medication was experimental. She took some experimental medication that some studies were showing was linked to cancer. She got the cancer that the drug was eventually linked with and eventually scrapped as a treatment. Of course, there's a risk if you get involved with experimental medication like that. But that hasn't stopped, some of us in the family from thinking, what if she hadn't taken that stuff? She died before I graduated college, and had she lived, she wanted to fly up here from Florida, where my grandparents retired. She wanted to fly up here to New England to attend my college graduation. She never did. And so losing her got a lot of people in the family thinking, what if she hadn't taken the experimental medication? In the case of my own mother, people find out that I lost my mom at a very young age, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, man. And I'm like, well, thanks for being polite. The truth of the matter is, though, that my mom did some things that she shouldn't have when she was young. One of them was basically run off to Florida and live on the beach as much as humanly possible. Suntan way too much. These days, we know that you can be in a tanning bed way too much and run the risk of cancer. Just part of what that radiation does to you if you bombard yourself with it too much. Thing is, though, my mom, we know she lived the way she did. She was diagnosed, fortunately, after I was born. I'd have a lot more things to worry about if she was diagnosed before I was born. The thing is, we can do the what if thing with her passing as well. What if our cancer treatments back then were like they are today? What if there was technology what if we had technology back then that we have now? What if? So if you're going to have these issues and you're going to run into what ifs like this, you don't want it to come from a preventable situation like, what if someone got the vaccine? And so that's what I don't want to see happen. We're in a situation right now where we have a vaccine. We didn't have this a year ago. We don't have to just hope that our social distancing works here. We don't have to cross our fingers. We have stuff nowadays we didn't have a year ago. In what wild and crazy and downright illogical world would I want to leave that kind of technology on the table? And when I look at the situation in India, this week I was introduced to NDTV and some cable news TV stations over in India that broadcast English language news on YouTube, similar to Arirang TV in South Korea. The news coverage of the mess that's going on over there, and that might be putting it lightly. Overcrowded, under-equipped hospitals, the oxygen shortage, healthcare workers putting themselves at risk over there more than they did over here. That kind of stuff. Imagine if you were living in India right now, watching people lose their loved ones live on TV because the reporters are covering a story about the problems in the hospitals and someone passes away while they're rolling cameras. And all the loved ones go running over grieving because their mother passed away, their aunt passed away, their brother passed away, their sister passed away. Somebody lost their fight with COVID. Live on TV. And you think to yourself, India has a ton of logistics issues when it comes to vaccines because they got to import a lot, obviously. There are companies in India like Bharat Biotech that are working on vaccines and trying to produce them and whatnot, but the technology they're using is a little older than mRNA, so it might be a little bit slower to manufacture. There could be logistics issues and whatnot, and there's been news coverage on channels like NDTV about vaccination drives being throttled by a lack of supply. Because between local production and importing as much as they possibly can from Russia, China, etc., even some US and UK vaccines, it's just a logistical nightmare in a country as populated as India to get sizable amounts of the country vaccinated versus what it is here in the US. Now imagine yourself living in that kind of an environment, and you find out, thanks to internet on your little smartphone or whatever, that there's people in the United States, but yeah, rich old America. There are people in countries like the United States, live in more liberal states like where I am in Connecticut or Massachusetts, who are in a position where not only is there a vaccine available, they can pick what they want. What a luxury. Walmart alone has something like that going on. I could probably create an account on Walgreens' website to try and take a look at that from the Walgreens perspective. The big thing I'm running into with some of these find a vaccine search engines is that they direct you over to VAMS, the Connecticut Vaccine Administration database, and I'm already vaccinated, so I don't know if I could still search for on behalf of others. So, I don't know if I can still search on behalf of others, but if I can go to like Walmart's website and look up what stores have what vaccines, but anyways, imagine if you're in an environment, if you live in a place like India and you find out somebody in an environment where you not only have easy access to vaccines, but you can choose which one you want without losing time, and you deliberately decide to not take any of them for some synthetic arguing on the internet reason. How do you think that would make someone feel? Holy crap, man. I'd be enraged. I'd be ranting for days about those spoiled rich Americans. How are they able to do this? Darn, I'll trade places with them because I'd love to be vaccinated tomorrow. That's what we got to keep in, that's what we have to keep in mind with all this arguing on the internet. One of the problems with sad fishing on the internet is that you may fish for sympathy because of the problems that you have, but other people not only have problems just like you do, get this, they may have problems that are worse than yours. We've made progress in the last year. We have a vaccine, whereas previously we didn't. And because of the drop-off in demand, because people want to come up with synthetic reasons not to get the darn vaccine, or be vaccine hesitant, blah, 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 we've gone from wanting it but can't get it to pretty much pick where you get it from. Here's every single way someone can get a COVID vaccine in my neck of the woods. Pharmacies. You have Walmart, big box retail. You also have other supermarket pharmacies and other places. Just inquire or look at local advertising. People are advertising, get your COVID shot here, even around here. You can easily find out what they have. There's also Yukon Health and FEMA and other pop-up clinics. Some of them even have done the whole, 2-dose thing where they come back a month later. Come on back and get your dose 2. Hospitals and healthcare facilities. There's lots of places besides the local CVS that fully booked or whatever. I've seen the videos where people are frustrated about trying to find appointments for vaccines. But pay attention to local social media. Ignore the anti-vaxxers complaining about every single COVID story that they post. And you can probably get some leads very easily, depending on where you live. But we're in a situation where we have this where previously we didn't. I'm not leaving that on the table. So, I'm going to contact the ISP about what the heck's going on with this new connection speed. Got some movies to watch. We'll try out the new camera for some videos. Find somebody to have some fun in this whole vacation. Not like we haven't been doing that as it is. So, we have the technology. Get your darn vaccine. It's that simple. Because there's people out there who can't and wish they could. I think they'd trade places with you in a heartbeat. Sometimes in life, we just got to check our privilege. And at least be humble about some things. All right. Didn't need this. I'm going to watch some of this stuff. And do some videos. While the ISP runs line tests and other stuff to see what the heck's been going on since I upgraded my speed. It's affecting my streaming and it's affecting ESO. And if it affects my streaming in particular, it is defeating the purpose of me having this internet in the first place. Right. The multimedia stuff beckons. One last thing. I mentioned this in the last stream that I scrapped, and I'll mention it again here. Because of the whole science still being out there on transmission when it comes to the vaccines. Yes, reduces your symptoms or eliminates symptoms, varying amounts. Everybody's different. Lag. It eliminates all, cuts down or eliminates symptoms, things along those lines, etc. But the science is still out on transmission. There's some studies that are mentioning, maybe it could help with, the transmission issue, where you don't end up not knowing you have it because you're not affected by it because the vaccine does its job, blah, blah, blah. But you accidentally pass COVID on to someone else who is affected by it because they're not vaccinated, can't be vaccinated, or whatever. Because of that, until my dad's vaccinated, we're not doing anything together. No father-son outings. If he shows up here, I'm just going to talk to him through the door. He's not coming in, and I'm not going out. Because I don't want to be the guy that accidentally is the reason why he has to put up with that crap with no vaccine. So he's been like, I want to see how this all pans out, da-da-da-da-da. No, that's not good enough. We're in a situation right now here in Connecticut where you can pretty much pick somewhere and go get one. Why not take advantage of that? Because I can tell you, I was pretty upset when essential workers lost their place in line a while back. Thanks to the federal side of it being boosted up and going for these goals of like 200,000 shots by 100 days in office, etc., and the Biden administration ramping up the logistics end of Operation Warp Speed. We're in a very different situation than we were back when the governor revised our plan down to just age only. And yes, it did take longer for me to go through the process, but we got through it. A couple of side effects left. Most of what I had was little 100-degree fever for a day, pain in the arm. But unlike last time, where I couldn't take my arm past 8:30 without it hurting really badly, during the worst of the arm pain, I got up to like 10 o'clock. And now, a day later, 12 o'clock, little stiff, little sore, little itchy. Basic Moderna arm. But I'd rather have this than some of the stories I've heard from people that had to deal with this. Whether it's guy at the 9 to 5, was out for 2 weeks, quarantine, can't make any money, da-da-da. Barely able to get out of bed. Fortunately, he didn't end up with things like brain fog or anything like that. But I see people who were out on quarantine weeks ago, and we see them out sick a little more. I don't know if we have somebody who's a COVID long hauler, but maybe we do. It's HIPAA stuff, so can't actually go being nosy about that. But you've got that. You also have the situation in the family. Yeah, we lost someone in my family because of COVID. But there's also somebody we didn't lose. And guess what her experience was like? Could barely do anything for weeks. Couldn't walk more than a few steps without getting winded. Used a CPAP as an oxygen machine because she could barely breathe on her own. Somehow tried to stay out of the hospital. Couldn't. Wound up in the hospital. Recovered, but was prone to pneumonia when she left the hospital as a side effect of what this crap did to her lungs. wound up back in the hospital with some pneumonia later. Pulled through on that and got reinfected during the second wave. So how long does the antibody stuff last? Yeah. That's the world before the vaccines, ladies and gentlemen. Those two rules I've been saying all along. You don't know who has it. You don't know what this thing's going to do to you if you get it. Is it fear of the unknown? Yup. And quite a healthy one. Because I don't think our lives are worth gambling with, quite frankly. I find it also interesting, we got Burning Crusade Classic coming out next month, June 1st. Coinciding, interestingly enough, with the launch of ESO Blackwood. One of the benefits of these vaccines is pushing the more severe consequences of getting this thing off the table. So at the very least, you're talking, as we see from data in the clinical trials and whatnot, you see drop-offs in severe symptoms, hospitalization, and death. Now, what I find interesting is that with Burning Crusade coming out, there's a direct parallel to that with how tanking used to work back in Burning Crusade. The defense stat with a magical 102.4 avoidance number that any tank had memorized back then. The point of that was because when you're tanking a raid boss, the boss could hit you with a crushing blow, which would pretty much flatten all the non-tanks. So he would get gear with defense on it to get higher dodge, parry, block, etc. Because if you dodged, parried, or blocked, you didn't have one of the worst things happen, like a crushing blow. And at a certain percentage, 102.4, the ability to get a crushing blow would be pushed completely off the table for what happened when the boss hit you as a tank. So uncrushable was a term you heard in World of Warcraft circles for people that tanked raids. And I find it interesting, this coincidence, parallel, whatever you want to call it, between pushing crushing blows off the table in a video game where you're tanking a boss to pushing more severe things that could happen to you, if not all of them, off the table when it comes to what happens if you have an encounter with COVID. So the vaccines are a good thing. There's something we didn't have a year ago. We have it now. If you wanted this last year, but if you wish you could get this last year, go get it. Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, whatever it is in your neck of the woods. Some of the other brands, if you're in other countries. The Global Vaccine Alliance at Gavi.org keeps an eye on the vaccine race. Because companies know there's public good and there's, lots of goodwill to be made, even if they don't make as much money because of things like patent waivers and stuff. There's lots of things out there that'll get lots of people saying nice things about a company with regards to all the mess we've been through with this thing. So whoever can get the good publicity gets the recognition. And of course, there's money involved as well. But there's definitely a drive, from what I'm seeing, with these companies developing these medicines. There's definitely a drive to create a vaccine in all parts of the world where this stuff's going on. And it's interesting keeping an eye on that database of who's where, in what country, with what vaccine and whatnot, where they're at in the clinical trials and all that cool stuff. This is stuff we didn't have a year ago, now we do. I'd say that's a win. Under no circumstances would a guy who's into technology like me have left that on the table. And quite frankly, why pretend things are worse than they are when it comes to whether or not we have things like this? And I don't even want to know the answer here, because I've heard all the excuses. And I've seen the debunk articles for those excuses. The vaccine's out there, go get it. Why take the risk otherwise? All right, let's contact the ISP about these lag spikes. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.